Okay, you should be live, Maggie.
Yay! Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our Prison to Power movement, Statewide Leadership Council. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Okay. So, I'm Maggie with the Statewide Leadership Council. I'm the lead organizer. And what the Statewide Leadership Council is a group of formerly incarcerated or family members of those who are incarcerated advocates. And we are just really passionate about bringing this advocacy and power to people who are getting out of prison, may not know that they have options when they get out. And so that's why we want to bring everybody together. And so we have resources that we can stay connected all across Texas. I'm from Austin, and we have members from all over. And I'll let Savannah introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Savannah. I'm one of the steering committee members for the Statewide Leadership Council. I'm also the founder of Be Frank for Justice and a member of several of the orgs who are here today, which makes me overjoyed to be because I am hopeful that we can all continue to collaborate moving forward. As Maggie said, Statewide Leadership Council has a goal of transforming the Texas justice system. And I always say one zip code at a time because we are literally going from community to community because we know that, you know, 1 in 2 folks are impacted by incarceration, and we want to make sure that we are pulling people in, building people power, so that when we get ready to advocate for the bills that are important to us, that we have our family with us, literally.
So the Statewide Leadership Council, we are from all over. Where did we go last? Oh, we were in Houston last. We've gone to the Livingston, Huntsville, and we're just trying to create this system. So when we do leave here, you still have a connection with us. We have virtual meetings once a month for everybody. And then the second Tuesday of the month, what we do is like educational. Because whenever I first got out of prison, I knew nothing about the legislative system, absolutely nothing. I knew how I was being treated when I was in prison, but I didn't know how to change it. And so, and it was very intimidating, very overwhelming, because I didn't even know how a bill becomes a law. I didn't know House, Senate, none of that. It just was all alien to me. And so I know there are people who feel that way out there and don't know how to get involved. And so that's why I want us to stay connected. So you can ask these questions. And I know I felt like I couldn't when I was sitting in a room full of suits and cowboy boots, you know? And so this is a community for us. So I'm gonna let Jennifer introduce herself. She's part of the Statewide Leadership Council. Yeah. Yes. Oh. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jennifer Toon, and I am assistant impacted of about 27 years in the system. So from the time I was 15, I was under determinate sentencing laws. I spent time in the Texas Youth Commission, which, if you've seen the news about the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, you see that they are under investigation from the Department of Justice. The things that have happened to our kids in the system have continued to happen for decades. And it's something I'm passionate about. I am a steering committee member with SLC. I am also the founder of a group called Lioness, which is a justice impacted women's alliance. We discovered pretty quickly that there's not a forum or a place for formerly incarcerated women in the state of Texas to make their voices heard. And we just got tired of people speaking for us. And so that was what I learned from the Statewide Leadership Council of how powerful activism is. And I'm gathering up our pride to finally roar at the Capitol and create some changes for women and kids in the system. I also work at the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities. Anything that has to do with disabilities in the system, in the criminal justice system, I am all over it. So we are so glad that you're here. We're glad to be in your community, and there you go.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So, yeah, we have several members here who are regular people at the meetings. We have Chevis, who will be speaking in a minute. And TCS, say hi. Alexis, Veronica. Roderick is one of the founding members with me and Jennifer and Savannah. I think that's it. Okay, here is Rep. Carl Sherman. Hi. Hi. Well, I told him we could have a few minutes.
Okay.
Good, right on time.
Pastor, I didn't expect that. To just walk right in. So good to see everyone today. We have so much work to do in the state of Texas. And I got to tell you, serving in the Texas House of Representatives, I don't have a lot of hope for what I see on the House floor. Because, you know, Pastor knows that when you have a session where you have members reconvene and the prayer that is done on the floor is the prayer for Jesus Christ, Matthew chapter 6. And that was the prayer, but the first bill that was laid on the floor after that prayer was a bill to outlaw homelessness in Texas, HB 1925. If they had just turned just a couple of chapters over, they would have found the one that we say we follow, saying foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. In Texas, Jesus Christ would receive a $500 citation for being homeless. Where does a homeless person get $500? Amen. We've got work to do. And as a member of the Corrections Committee, which I chose to be on, and a member of Appropriations, we need more oversight in our prison system. As I tour our prisons across the state, and when I came into the House, we had about 102 prisons. We now have 98. We had 145,000 souls incarcerated in our prisons. We now have approximately 120,000. That's a major city. We're stretched over 220 square miles. That's the size of Chicago, Illinois. We have industry in our prison, free labor. This is who we are. But Jesus Christ says to us in Matthew 25, when I return, I've got some things that I want you to know that I'm going to ask. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I had no place, I was a stranger, you visited me. When I was sick, you visited me. And then he says, when I was in prison, you visited me.
Yes.
As I tour our prisons, from the men's to the women's prisons, I'm saddened at how much we don't do. As a former city manager, I'll tell you, even our animal shelters, we have to have air conditioning. Come on.
Yes.
Or someone's going to jail.
That's right.
More than half of our prisons do not have AC in the housing units. People are dying in our prisons. I believe God's going to hold us accountable. We got a lot of work to do. I remember touring one prison as I went to the prison in Gatesville. I know this is prison power, but you just called me when I walked in. Maggie,
That's power.
Sister Luna, you asked for this. As I toured the prison, I met the women in the Mountain View unit. The corner, and there was a woman sitting on the floor reading a book, white female, and she got up and introduced herself. Her name is Michelle. I asked her where she was from. She's from Fort Worth. I asked her what brought her there. She said, good to see you, Sister Green. I'm glad Brother Spencer is out. She said that she had been beaten by her husband for many years. And police were called and they would come out, but the situation would continue. So finally she defended herself and he ended up dead. That's why she's there in prison. She hoped to get out in about 2 years. But what she said to me, I'll never forget as I left her to go to the next person. She said, thank you for coming. People like you don't come here. You made us feel human. Made us feel human. What are we doing to people? It's not godly. We exonerate more people in the state of Texas than any other state in the union. But even if a person is guilty, we have no right to punish. Scripture says, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. Punishment is separating them and rehabilitating them, giving them more hope and opportunity when they return. I'm so glad that you are doing what you are doing, Prison of Power, because you get it. You understand that everybody needs wraparound services. We've got to do more to help people because they could be you and I. It could be. Don't think that it can't be. I read about a man named Joseph that was incarcerated for a crime he had committed. So we're just people trying to get it right, and we've got to give some grace too. Hope you will help me each session that I work to try and get change. This last session, I put $25 million in for body cams. As the first African-American mayor for the city of DeSoto, Texas, I was proud to have body cams for all of our police officers as the first city in the nation to have body cams back 2011. That was way before Ferguson and all these other cases that we've heard. And the reason was because of African-American mothers and grandmothers calling me, telling me about their sons, their husbands being arrested or being mistreated by our officers. Body cams are one step, but you've got to have oversight too. And so I moved to have our 20,000 correctional officers each have body cams. But unfortunately, even as an appropriator, you don't have all power. The Senate took that 25 million and allocated it for something else. I hope you will help me. My first session, I put 2 million in to do a pilot test, and they took that 2 million and used it, appropriated it for something else. We need systemic accountability in our prison system. And so please help me with that. And the same thing with ACs. Continue to work to try and get ACs. And we certainly this past session, and this was a layup. We should have gotten this because the federal government gave us about 1.4 billion. We could have done it, but it first starts with desire. You know, we've got to have the desire to do it. And right now, Texas is now voting in statewide and in all of these districts, people who have a desire to do it. And so I don't know what else we can do to show that we need more people voting. But we do need more people voting, because when we vote, our democracy wins, and we have people that represent our interests and our concerns. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come and speak. I have never walked into a room and been given the right away, Maggie. So God bless you all. Be here as long as I can. I do need to go take care of my mom. She's not doing so well. She's expensive, you know that. So anyway, I'll be here as long as I can.
Thank you, and we'll keep your moment there.
Thank you.
Rev Sherman was one of the ones who treated us like humans at the Capitol. He actually cared when we talked about what was going on inside. And so I'm so grateful that he was able to join us today. And he actually tours the prison. I mean, I could go on all day. So, but he did say something about voting and how important it is. You know, a lot of us don't realize that if you're not on parole or probation, even if you serve time, you can vote. And so that leads me over to Frances Rizzo. Oh, here she is. And she's going to talk a little bit about voting in our community.
Thank you, Maggie. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I was sitting in the back of the room and I was having to kind of lean forward. So I'm going to put on my broadcasting voice. How's that? Okay, so I don't have to yell. I've been an activist in the political system since I was 16, and I'm old enough that I had to wait until I was 21 to vote. I know a lot of you in the room can't relate to that because you can register to vote and do a lot of things at 18. But I was involved in my first political campaign at the age of 16 and still had to wait until I was 21 to register to vote. I became a volunteer deputy voter registrar and have been registering people all of my life since then. So I've had a lot of experience where you had to do everything by hand or on a manual typewriter, and then to an electric typewriter, and then to some very first computerized systems that would print out letters, and you could put in the address so that the person that would receive the letter felt like it was a personal letter just to them. And we, politicians, candidates did all that. They would spend that kind of money to do that. And of course, in today's world, we have all the fantastic technology. But even with all the technology that we have, you still have to register by hand on an application. You cannot do it online. You have to actually sign it. And you can fill one out and mail it in, but you can't be sure it's going to get processed. They told us that we could register to vote through the post office or when we renewed our driver's license, and then it turned out that they were all getting lost. Not all of them, some of them got through. So they finally started clearing that up. So the very, very sure way that you can register to vote, if you're eligible, I'll get to that in a moment, is to go to that back table over there with the folks from the Texas Organizing Project. And Sylvia is also, oh, and Moo. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was you. And they're registering people to vote today. Now, people that are convicted of crimes cannot vote. You basically lose your citizenship rights. But when you get off paper, I'll talk about that again in a moment. When you get completely off paper, that means you paid all your fines, you have paid your time, you put in your time, you no longer have to report to a parole officer, you have completed your probationary time if you didn't have to. Chorizo menudo, maybe, Frances Rizzo. Yeah. Tejano Democrats.
Yeah. Yes.
We met through all of that. Okay. And he's part Mexican, by the way.
That's right.
See, you don't know what you're going to learn when you come to this meeting. Okay? All right. So why am I telling you all of that? It's because when we tell people register to vote and vote, they don't understand the significance and the price that has been paid for the privilege. We're supposedly living in a democracy, a country that is free, And you have rights, you have responsibilities right along with those rights. So when one goes to vote, it doesn't mean it's just when you have time to go vote or when it's convenient or if it's convenient. It's a democratic governmental system. That means we have the right to representation. And if someone has lost their right to vote, it doesn't mean they don't have any influence. It means you can speak up. You can still call your elected officials and you can get your family and friends and neighbors to register and encourage them to go vote. Okay, you were talking about understanding the legislative process, how laws are made. All of that is tied into the vote. If we elect the right people, democracy works. When we do not vote, we're giving permission for the other people to do what they please and to elect whoever they want to. So if you stay home during election time, because we have a right to vote early, we always have a couple of weeks that includes a weekend to go vote. There's no excuse for not voting. Even if the weather's bad, I don't care if there's ice and snow out there, it's gonna melt. We're in Texas. It's gonna melt. Somewhere in those 2 weeks of early voting, you can vote. You don't have to wait until election day when the lines are so long that you want to turn around and go home, okay? It's like putting everything off until the last minute. Something will probably happen, okay? So I go in and I get processed, I vote because I always go vote early. I don't wait till the last day. The lines are going to be tremendous. And now that we have Representative Sherman was telling us about how discouraging it is at the legislature, I'm getting my Spanish here stuck in my English. Okay, cha and chef, okay. It's because the Democrats are not in the majority. The Republicans are in the majority and they have the votes and they can pass whatever they want to pass. That's why we have voter suppression. That's why they have passed laws to limit the places to go vote, the hours you can go vote. You almost have to go back to the olden days in the 50s and 40s when you had to pay a poll tax and you had to take off work to go vote. The Democrats had started fixing all that, and now we're losing all of that we fought for. I've been in the civil rights movement. I've been in the Chicano movement. I've been in the women's movement, and I did voter registration and voter education through all of that. And I'm almost done. They only gave me 5 minutes, so they gave you a lot more time. You walk in and they go. Okay, and I made some notes because it's hard for me to keep on track. I get very emotional and I get very excited because voting has been a part of my life since elementary school. They elected me vice president in my 7th grade. Okay, so I had to learn Robert's Rules of Order, how to make motions, and I am, by the way, a registered parliamentarian through the National Association of Parliamentarians. So if anybody wants me to come and teach you basic parliamentary procedure, I will do it for you, especially grassroots communities. I charge people that have money, okay? But for grassroots communities, I know there's no money there. I'll do it because not only getting on fire about the importance of voting, but understanding that, yes, we elect our city council people, we elect our school board people, we elect our state representatives, our county commissioners, our state representatives, and our state senators. I live in the 23rd Senatorial District, so Royce West has been my senator forever, and before that, it was Oscar Massey. And it was Oscar Massey that I worked in his campaign, volunteered. I didn't get paid. That's how I learned. At the age of 16, that we elected Oscar Massey. So then he went on to be a judge and all of that stuff. So if you're passionate because you understand the importance of your vote, then you're on fire and you can share that fire with the people around you, with your family. And once you're completely off paper, you don't have to report anymore. You paid your fine, done your time. You can register to vote. So please do that. We all have loved ones that have served time. I have a brother that served twice. We lost a nephew-in-law last month. He died in state prison. Okay, so I'm not here to say I'm in the tower, you know, looking down. I am grassroots. I grew up in West Dallas. And half of the guys that I grew up with in elementary school there in Ledbetter, Eagle Ford, they are either dead or in prison. Okay, and they got out of prison older, you know, hopefully survivors. We're all survivors. Gee whiz, if you grow up in West Dallas, you were considered a survivor. Okay, there are other parts of town now that we feel that way about, but we can fix these things. We can change things by your vote, by electing the right people, the people that you know will do a good job. But once they get elected, it's our responsibility to tell them what we want them to do. They were elected to represent us, not to go up there and get bought out by the money.
Yeah.
Okay? Not talking about you, sir. And I know you too well. Okay? There are a lot of good elected officials, okay? There really, really are. They have their heart in there. They're God-loving, God-serving people. But we have to learn how to unelect the folks that we know are doing us harm. Because some of them get up there and they get all that money, they get bought out, then they just do the bidding of the people that support them, okay? So we've got to make democracy work. And it is we, the grassroots people, that have to do it. The rich people are gonna do it, they're fine, they're happy. It's a grassroots people that suffer the discrimination and the racism. And I'm not just saying people of color. There are a lot of people that get discriminated against for different reasons, but they're mostly grassroots folks. Okay, so I want to say, it's not just voter registration. Some elections are every 2 years. Some elections are every 4 years, which is a presidential election. And others are 6 years, like the US senators, okay? And there's some other terms. All right, democracy is representation. What is the difference in the different elections? I've had people all the time ask me, why are there so many elections? Why do we have to go vote so many times? Well, the primary elections are held by the political parties. And basically we have the Democrats and the Republicans. In the primary election, which is held in March of every other year, they run against each other to see who's going to run against the other party's nominee in the general election in November. Those are called partisan elections. And right now we're in the middle of campaigns for runoff elections, because we had so many candidates. I don't remember now if the Republicans are having a runoff or not, but I know the number of Democrats are. I'm a precinct chair, so I can't help but know. All right, so you're going to be asked to vote in the runoff. The runoff elections are notorious for low voter turnout. And sometimes they're more important because it's the local elections closest to our everyday life that impacts our lives the most. Okay, I've had people tell me I only vote in the presidential years because I only want to vote for the president. Well, what about the school board representative? How about when they vote against the curriculum that you know we need? You know, the State Board of Education voted about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, when Latinos became 70% of the public school student body in the state of Texas, they lowered the requirements for graduation from high school. And they eliminated Algebra 2 from the curriculum. But you need Algebra 2 to get into college. How odd that it happened to be when people of color were the majority of the student population in Texas. Don't tell me there's not a connection. Okay, see how passionate I get, I'm sorry. Okay, they asked me to talk about voting, and I have to make this real so that we understand that everybody that's running is important, especially those closest to home. Okay, all right. The nonpartisan elections are when we elect city council people, school board people, and the college district. A lot of people don't even pay attention to the college district. But what have you heard lately about the Dallas college system? They changed the name. It's no longer Dallas County Community College District. It's now Dallas College, and it's Dallas College at Mountain View. Dallas College at Brookhaven, Dallas College, and if it had not been for El Centro College, the first campus, I probably never would have gone to college. So thank God for the college district. It's important. It does, some of these positions pay a salary and some of them don't. Most city councils do not. Yes, the city of Dallas City Council and the mayor get a nice salary, but very few of the other municipalities in Dallas County get paid. All right, so it's really a dedication. Okay, single member districts. What is a single member district and what's a general district? We have to go to court in Dallas. We always have to go to court to get our rights. Somebody always has to file a lawsuit in order for the court to order it. That's why we have the single member district in Dallas. And some of the surrounding municipalities still have elections at large, which means whoever runs, everybody in that town or that district votes for everybody running. But if you live in a single member district, you have to live there to run there, and only the people registered to vote in that district can vote in that race. Okay, that's why we are able to say that we have representation from all over the city in single member districts. And that was court ordered too. The power is not given up. People with power are not going to give it up if they don't have to. So our experience in politics is you either follow a lawsuit and the court orders it, or you have to elect a replacement. Gerrymandering. You all have heard the word gerrymandering. If the Republicans are in power, they're going to change the district lines to their advantage. I don't need to say that over again, do I? Okay. It makes it harder for us to elect our representatives from the grassroots. Okay. That happens every 10 years, after we take the census every 10 years and they get the figures. Well, a lot of people don't even trust the census anymore. They didn't respond to the questionnaire. They didn't answer it. They didn't get counted. So that's an issue in our community as well. We have to organize and educate grassroots. We need to learn how to function on a board, a commission, or a board of our local government. That means you need to learn how to talk in a meeting. You need to learn how to make a motion. You need to learn what your rights are to vote. Okay. When I was elected as a target area rep to the War on Poverty, I know some of y'all are too young to even remember that. LBJ, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, instituted a federal program called the War on Poverty. And a third of that board had to be elected target area representatives from the lower income communities. And they were single member districts. I ran, I got elected. No one else on that board except the target area reps had to run. Okay, all right. But that's how I learned advocacy. And believe me, I made a motion for a program to come to West Dallas, and somebody made a motion to substitute my motion, and I lost, and I didn't understand how I had lost. Believe me, I went and bought a book, Robert's Rules of Order, and I've been studying it ever since, and now I teach it.
We should have you do one of our.
I will be happy to do so. Okay, precinct chairs. What is a precinct chair? This means that you are the elected representative of your political party in your voting neighborhood. That's a precinct, okay? If you're in West Dallas, for example, West Dallas probably has about 15 precincts, okay? Because every voting precinct gets to elect. You got to file, your name is on the ballot, but you only elect precinct chairs in the primary, okay? So we have to have advocacy. You talk about writing or calling or sitting in a representative's office until they talk to you, accountability and advocacy. It's not just electing them and then expecting them to do what you want them to do. They can't read your mind. You got to let them know. Whether you call, whether you text, whether you email, whether you go knock on their door. Well, that might be a little fuzzy, but if you know them, I think I could go knock on your door, couldn't I? You would know I was not dangerous. Okay, all right. So then, I have picketed some mayors' houses in my experience. I have picketed a lot of things, okay. So anyway, we are responsible for telling our elected officials what we want from them. Voting is only the first step. Educating ourselves is the second step, or even the first step. Okay, all through, we have to learn. And every legislative session, we have to learn who the new reps are, who we need to call, And we need to pay attention to who they hire. Are they hiring people that just gave them money? Or are they hiring people that are really going to stay in communication with their constituency? That's what I gotta say. Please register to vote and go vote.
Very important. We have people here ready to get you registered. I'm gonna let Shivas come up here. 3 minutes. Can you- Thank you, Rep. Sherman, for being here. Thank you so much. We're talking about prison of power, you know, and how we come out of prison and it's encouraging to see other people who are doing work out here. So I want to introduce one of our members, Shivas.
Peace and power to the people. My name is Shevis. I have my own group in Austin, direct service agency, working through 512, and I can tell you all the colorful things that we do, but we really just stay intimately involved in the community. But I'm also a member of the Statewide Leadership Council, very proud member, as I was active with Maggie walking the hallways during the 87th legislative session. Rev. Sherman talked about the tours of prison, but even a tour could not show the fractured, broken hearts, and the blindness of so many, the disparaging factors of so many. While I was in prison, I decided not to disparage my sisters and talk about carnal behavior. I decided not to compete, finding the spirit of competition for the NFL and the NBA. I decided not to be so suppressed with anger that I would apply that to a brother. I decided to learn the law. In my last 378 days, I'm inmate 2306693. I learned the law and worked on 515 cases in 378 days, enabling 91 men to get released. Even as capable as I was, when I'd come back, there was no preparing me for the apparatus of restrictions, 45,000 laws, 19,000 administrative policies that restrict me from getting a place to sleep, and we all know the rest. I decided to step back, recalibrate my focus, embrace new relationships, put my hand into the dirt, in the community, and simply work to overcome the dark path that it is to re-enter and assimilate back into the community. These days, I just stay busy. From policy research to creating data sets, to helping 10 men and women in Austin find rehab, find safe spaces. I just had a son. Some of y'all know James Baldwin. He said in 65 that the American dream was achieved only on the expense of Black Americans. And it's not because of the catalog of disaster, including the police and the healthcare system, but because we look at our kids and know we can't prevent them from going through the same thing. But I'm here to remind you that you can, we can. It is the community's obligation to create space, to create initiative, to communicate effectively regarding mass incarceration, regarding the pathway it is to overcome and re-enter, but also how to treat people like you would want to be treated. Rev. Sherman quoted the scriptures in Ecclesiastes 7:7. It says, surely oppression will drive a wise man mad. And we need you to be mad about these outcomes. We need you to be mad enough to register and know what you're voting for. Not just vote in the solicitous behavior in the transactional nature, but know what you're voting for. But don't hold everybody to their guilt. Some of us were innocent. Some of us were innocent. Remember that we have to let people become who they want to become and live how they want to live. Maggie's a perfect example. Jennifer's a perfect example. I'm just following their lead. We have been to the darkest of places. We have said goodbye to people that we will never see again. I woke up one day and a cellmate was dead. Some of the things that we've experienced and we've seen makes it really hard to just come out and have this good character. We are just as human as you are. But I stand before you again, inmate 2306693, saying that we can. You have to commit yourself to improving You have to commit yourself to creating new relationships. You have to commit yourself to believing again. And if you can, then you can travel up to Dallas like I did today, as I hadn't been here in 3 years. I've gone to prison and everything since. I'm very pleased to be amongst so many wonderful people today, merely just holding the torch and passing it forward. We can establish the power to overcome the Senate, the legislature, and all that, but it takes us all coming together. That's right. And that's what I leave you with. When if it's only time to do this when elections come, you are a little too late. That's right. It takes every day, remembering the faces that you see here today that speak, that are behind these tables, and that being the incentive to help change the narrative. Everybody ain't guilty. Right. And even if you are guilty, when you come back from prison, guess what? You come back from prison. Yeah. Thank you.
Love hearing people give power. Next we have Reverend Ron White, who is going to come tell us how he found power after prison.
This is my brother. We gotta do his mother. His name is God. Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you all for being here. I thank God for each and every one of you. I'm not gonna be long because I don't want to pass the offering tray. But I thank God for each and every one of you for what you're testifying and telling. I'm Reverend Ron White, Executive Director of Justice Seekers Texas, 21st Century Civil Rights and Social Justice Organization. And I thank God for each and every one of you. But I want to let you know, period, if you ain't been through something, you ain't about that. Oh, y'all didn't hear me. I said, if you ain't been through something, you ain't about nothing. So, because you've been to prison, that don't mean anything. I asked to go to prison. And I'm the only person you ever meet that was kicked out of prison. And they told me not to ever come back again. And I told the God, I'll be back. And he said, I know you will, you always do. I came back 5 months later, like to shut down 2 prison units. They had a shooting in Cofield unit that killed 2 men and lied on them. One guy was getting ready to get out the next month, they say he committed suicide. And then the next month, another guy sued him because they got beat up. But I thank God for all the things you guys are doing, because if I had y'all with me 22 years ago, we probably wouldn't even be going through this right now. But I thank God for you. But after I got out, I refused to remain silent. And I got out there and did some things, what you all are doing right now today. After I stopped from shutting down the prison unit, I came back to the city of Dallas and stopped the Dallas Police Department from using the chokehold. Because they're only choking out a certain race of people that you can only imagine being choked to death. That's the worst way in the world you could die, to get your breath cut off from you. Once I stopped that from happening here in Dallas, they were a little shocked, like, how did he get out of prison and try to tell the police what to do? Well, I did do that. And after I did that in McKinney, for y'all who were here in Texas and around Dallas and know it, there was a quadruple murder. And the brother that's just left, I got about 100 people out of prison because I was studying law. When I got everybody out but myself. I couldn't get myself out. And eventually they let me go. But I asked to go to prison because I was going through some things and I couldn't handle it. I had a little midget lawyer, and I get out on my knees and grab him by the collar and tell him I wanted to go. And that was the worst thing I could ever do. But that's what God was waiting on me at. And Jesus was waiting on me right there in that prison. And so when I got out, I was able to do some things. But they had a quadruple murder in McKinney where 4 people were murdered. And they had a couple of guys that were getting ready to give them the death penalty for killing them. And one young lady said, Rev, you got to come to McKinney. I said, man, McKinney's too tough. I'm not coming. And I refused to go. And God woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, boy, get down to McKinney. And when I drove down there, I said, well, it's going to be a protest. I got down there, it was just me and the 2 mothers and 50,000 police. And I said, Lord have mercy, I'm in trouble now. But after I done that protest, the chief called me back the next day and said, well, you stop the police from using the chokehold. We don't need you to come down here. You can't tell nobody what to do. You've been in prison, this, that, and other. And while I was there, there was a young lady there. I ain't gonna tell her whole story because I see some kids in here. But there was a young lady there and she was telling me something. And I said, well, okay, I'll leave. And I was gonna turn in a dirty cop. And they said, a dirty cop? And I said, yeah. He said, what do you mean? I said, give me that telephone. And I called the young lady up and she said, I said, you told Channel 8 a different story than you told me. She said, no, I told him the same story. I said, tell it, it was like 5 chiefs there listed. And they looked at me. She said, well, he was going with me and he was married. He didn't tell me he was married. They looked like, we don't care about that. She said, well, he pulled up to a park full of kids in a patrol car, and he pulled this little stuff out and started to masturbate. And she said, I was sitting there looking, and all of a sudden all the kids ran to his car, and she said, stop, put that up, because these kids are coming. He said, I don't care, they can watch too. I grabbed the phone and hung it up, and the chief said, oh, what do you want to do? I went and talked to the guys, and they didn't even like each other. A year later, America Most Wanted called me and said, right, we need to talk to you. Why? He said, we found out who killed those people, and it was a gang out of Florida. And we thank God for what you did, because you stopped 2 men from getting the death penalty. So I thank God, like I said, for you all doing what you need to do. I stopped them from making guns. That's why I said, I wish I had y'all 22 years ago. I stopped them from making guns that look like real guns, because that was an excuse to kill you. And now they've created those guns back again. And so, as long as you guys coming together, we're gonna be able to make something happen. So I thank God for that. And we were part of saying you need to vote. Because I came from prison, I started my own party. I'm not Republican and I'm not a Democrat. I'm a victimcrat. I've been victimized by both parties. Okay, they don't care about it, so I'm a victimcrat, so I'm starting my own party. And so we can do what is right. But I want to let each and every one of you know that as long as you're coming together, we're going to be able to accomplish a lot of things. And I thank God for each and every one of you. And I remember back, and I'm through, like I said, I'm not going to be long, I'm going to be short. I want to pass the offering tray. But I remember when I used to run from the police, now they run from me. And I'm the oldest man you'll ever meet, red, white, black, or green, that's been to prison with a police badge in his pocket. And that's called favor. Favor ain't fair. Do you hear me? I used to run for me, and now they run for me. I'm also on the City of Dallas Police Commission Board, so I'm in charge of them when they get out of control. But as long as you continue to do what you do and depend on God, you understand me? Like I said, that's what it's called. You can't have a testimony if you haven't been tested. So each and every one of you that have been tested, you were able to overcome that. I thank God for each and every one of you coming here together so we can make a difference and save this next generation that's going through what it's going through. And baby girl said, well, I know she was a lot older. They'd be in 10 prison before we even needed them and put people in them. And so it's time for us to wake up. Our theme song is Wake Up Everybody. No more sleeping in bed, no more backwards thinking. It's time for us to think ahead. God bless y'all.
Thank you. This is amazing having all these people from the community up here, and I'm just so thrilled to see all of these people. Next, we have another person who is in the community doing great work, Mr. Victor.
Good afternoon. My name is Victor Avalize. I hate that I have to follow. But that's just me. Yes, my name is Victor Avalize. I am a child of Oak Cliff. I am damn right. Yes. I love Oak Cliff. I love it. I swear I do. I grew up around Deer Path Park, near Upper Winter Homes. Yeah, I love it. I swear. I love it so much. And when I joined the Navy after graduating high school, I took over the Navy. And so I took a lot of things that I learned there that I should not have learned, a lot of things that I was doing there when I said I was going to stop doing them. And I joined the Navy. I wound up getting into an altercation. And that altercation led to me reverting back to what I had learned at Oak Cliff. And I sadly took a man's life. And I was incarcerated in the state of Virginia for 26 consecutive years. I was released from prison almost 2 years ago. And since that time, let me backtrack. So when I was incarcerated, the infamous 94 crime bill was passed. And for those that says, I'm not going to get political and get historical, but that changed the mindset of way prisons and criminal justice was starting to operate again in the United States of America. With that being said, what I learned is that criminal justice goes on a pendulum. It goes from opening doors to locking them shut tight. Opening doors to locking them shut tight. I was incarcerated at a time when they were letting out individuals that when I was received a life sentence for first degree murder, my lawyer told my mother, oh, okay, he's going to serve with parole. Oh, he's going to serve 13 or 15 years and he will be released and he will come home. And if the appeal comes through, that'll happen sooner, but 13, 15 years, that's the average. Soon as that bill was passed, they replaced the entire parole board with people that said that no one will ever get out of prison as long as they live. And I was incarcerated in the state of Virginia, but some individuals used to jokingly say, we are looking the descendants of Willie Lynch in their eye. We are dealing with individuals that was the bastion and the creation of slavery in the United States of America. And when they told us that we were the worst of the worst, and they showed it to us by not letting anybody else on parole, unless they had to let them out on forced mandatory release, they forced us to become politically active, socially active, and spiritually active while incarcerated. I have a saying, I tell people, you have to be acutely aware of your own self-worth and your own dignity. I don't care who they are. I'm a man of mixed heritage, have African-American, have Mexican-American, no habla español. And I tell people this, but I love my Black and brown people. I love them. I swear I do. I swear I do. And I went in with that mindset. I went in with that Oak Cliff mentality all the way up in Virginia. I'm from the cliff. I do what I want to do. I don't care nothing about you being the warden or whatever it is. I'm going to do what I want to do. And when I started to become socially active while incarcerated, it was the same mindset. I'm going to do what I want to do. And when I embraced Islam in my 15th year, I continued to do what I want to do by being socially active while being a Muslim. And I let people know, listen, this is my faith, but this is my work. My work is trying to uplift and inspire individuals so they can become acutely aware of their own self-worth, their own dignity. And I have another passion. I strongly believe, I don't want to say I know, but I believe that every person that was incarcerated has a moral obligation to give back to their community. All right. They have a moral obligation to give back to the community. I don't care, and if I say something wrong, I should have said this, I apologize. If I say the wrong thing, it is on me, and please forgive me. If I say the right thing, it comes from the Most High, and all praise go to Him. But let me say this, and individuals that were once incarcerated, help individuals get out, and things like that. If they're not coming with numbers and talking like the sisters talking about voting and things like that, I don't want to hear what people are talking about behind bars. I tell them in a heartbeat, if your mother and your sisters and your friends and your relatives are on the front lines out in the community fighting for yourself, for your backside, you better be in here doing something. Amen. And if you think you're gonna be in here hooping and getting high and doing all this other stuff, and we're getting newsletters or we're getting information from a person's relatives that's out there trying to not just free him, but free me, we got a problem, baby. We got a problem. And I'm like that now with the work that I do. I work as a virus interrupter. The Most High saw fit that I was incarcerated 26 years, a childhood girlfriend from Oliver Wonder Homes. We reconnected on my final 5-6 years. Very successful young lady, very beautiful young lady, and we were married while I was incarcerated my last 5 years. I mean, very successful, making upwards of $200,000 a year, working on a PhD. She knew my passion to do this type of work once I'm going to be released. So basically, I had everything set up that I could not fail. The Most High saw fit to make my marriage fail and make me have to start all the way back on from zero, as if saying, show me how bad you really want to do this work. So when I left out thinking that I had a easy foundation or a strong foundation to stand on while I do this type of work, I had to do this type of work while trying to rebuild my life from scratch. I work as a violence interrupter. It's not the most high paying, best paying job, but it is the most spiritually rewarding for me. Ironically, I work in the same area that I grew up in Oakland, down there by. So I go into Village Oaks, I go into Butterbeans, I go into St. J, I go into these infamous projects, and I have to encourage conflict resolution. I have to discourage retaliatory acts while trying to also encourage them to access resources and through government agencies or through other like-minded nonprofits so they can improve their quality of life. That's my job. That's what I do. And I do it in the area that I broke as a child, regardless if I was following someone else. Regardless of that window pane was broken already, or those apartments were broken already before I got there. I help add to the misery, I have an obligation to help, fix it now. We just held a community health care event in St. James Apartments, last Thursday. We partnered with the, Dallas County Health and Human Services. They did over 40 plus HIV tests. We partnered with Commissioner John Wiley Price's office. They provided, over 20, COVID vaccine shots. We also had a couple other agencies there. The Muslim Alliance for Black Lives, they were there passing out 100 boxes of, free KFC chicken, 2-piece biscuit and mashed potatoes. Yeah, everybody loves chicken, I know. Most High has blessed you. And so we were able to do that to change that, you know, to change what the kids see. And I told the kids were like, man, you put on an event for about a bounce house? I said, yeah, he said, I didn't think it was you because you the violence guy. I said, yeah, but you got to understand, y'all are seeing things that no one should have ever seen, let alone seeing it as a youth. You understand? When I first started doing this work in July of last year, my first response was to St. James Manor for someone got killed up there in broad daylight. The kids were looking at the body while the police was taking it off and all these things. This is my neighborhood, this is my area. But this is the work that I'm doing, and I'm trying to pull a lot of individuals like myself, like all of us that were once incarcerated, and know right from wrong and trying to do right. I'm trying to pull them out the shadows to encourage them to do more and be more. I am in awe of everyone that is here. I truly am. I definitely want to speak to a few people that I heard speak, especially you, sister, because I was blessed with an opportunity yesterday to receive the blessing, support, and the partnership of Councilwoman Carolyn King Arnold. We're going to be doing a community health fair event in the next month or so. And so prayerfully, we'll hopefully get somebody down there to do some voter registration while there. And let me jump back, and I apologize for jumping all over. That's something to say. When I say we became politically active and socially active while incarcerated, a lot of individuals like myself, long-serving individuals served 20 plus years, 30 plus years, 40 plus years in the Virginia Department of Corrections, came home with a spirit of activism to help their communities. We were doing things while incarcerated that showed that our voices mattered while incarcerated. And this is why I strongly encourage, it's almost mandated, your relatives, your friends, anybody that you're advocating for, even if you have no one there, they have an obligation to do this type of work once while they're now. It's just like with reentry. Reentry don't start, I tell people, you don't start 6 months before you go home. You damn sure don't start the day you go home. You start the day you get locked up. That's when you start preparing for your reentry. The moment you acknowledge your guilt from that day forward, you will be held accountable for everything you do and you do not do. So that goes for people in there and once they are released. We have a lot of work to do. We voted in, and I say we, they believe that the prisoners' friends and family members were so instrumental, they created an Office of Returning Citizens in the Public Safety Department in the Virginia House. The Office of Returning Citizens. But likewise, 4 years later, they became so like a daisical, because a lot of people get released, doing what they want to do. They voted in the governor that lambasted the anti road war for letting a lot of people out. And they went on this same thing, get tough on crime then. So now it's like we're always starting off from scratch. The previous governor, he restored everyone's rights that immediately once they were released from prison. Before that, you had to apply for the rights. But me being in parole in Texas, although I was incarcerated in Virginia, I can't vote. So what can I do? Do I sit on my hands and do nothing? Or do I try to get a sister so we can do a voter registration drive somewhere? We all got work to do. We all know what we need to do. We all know what we have to do. We just got to do the work. And I'm here to partner with anybody that wants to work. I don't sugarcoat things. I have sharp elbows, as some people say. I'm about trying to make some things happen, positive things happen. If you're about that, we can work. If you're about blaming everybody on the side except for yourself, like you said, we all asked to go to prison if you was engaging in activities. We all asked to go to prison. And then once we got there, I didn't want to be there after about a couple of years, like I'm tired of this. I mean, yeah, holding a knife and getting tattoos on the yard, man, and shit. Like, look, I did all the odd stuff, man. Ready to go, bro. You know, and so, but how do you leave? How do you actually get out? You know, people were shocked. I used to stop the water, think, you let me out today? What? I didn't know, man. I just said, we gotta try. Could be, y'all got a golden ticket, y'all never told me about, I don't know. But that's the mindset they have to have, the mindset that we have to have out here, is that we have to do any and everything to change our condition. We have to do any and everything that we can to help improve another person's condition. But I don't drag horses to water, and I don't shove their heads into the trough once they're there. I tell people, hey, I'm going this way. And after that, you're gonna hear two words, bet or buy. That's it. So I'm trying to make some positive things happen in Oak Cliff, in the state of Dallas, state of Texas, nationwide, and prayerfully international. Y'all with me? You ready to go?
Thank you. And you mentioned something about working together, and that's like the whole point of this. We have tables over here of resources that you can use here in Dallas. We have at this table a computer with the color of change. She's in Louisiana, but there is a Dallas squad that needs help. So if y'all want to get involved with color of change, go talk to her. We have Move, who's here for voter registration. We have the Big Country Re-Entry Coalition. And so afterwards, if y'all want to just talk to these people, top back here, Be Frank for Justice and Equal Justice Law Group. So, and they're all here in Dallas. So y'all can connect and work together. Next, we have Mr. Darius Cutaway, and he's also here in Dallas doing amazing work. So.
Thank you all for having me. This is my first time being able to see everyone from being on Zoom and, you know, every Tuesday. So it's good to see everyone. I'm not going to be before you all very long. I've been traveling. I was just at Texas Tech, and I finally got to see my little girl. And I was going to let her stay with her mother, but she, so hopefully she'll sit back there and kind of chill out. But whenever I go and speak, and I'm speaking in terms of doing justice, I always like to give credit to God because I know who saved my life. I'm reminded of the scripture that I have embedded in my heart, not on my body. As you can see, I have tattoos, but it's embedded in my body. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. I remember turning the age of 17 and I was in the vehicle with my friends and they were smoking weed. And honestly, I'm 32, just turned 32 yesterday, by the way. Never smoked, never drunk in my life. I was going to get a check for KFC and I twitched my ankle. I was a star football player in high school. And I asked my friend, I said, hey, can you take me to KFC so I can get my check? So at this time we had weed in the car, in the vehicle, and it was weed. You know, when you smoke and you have the windows cracked, you can see the smoke. So me being from Detroit, Michigan, we have a narcotics group called the Narcos. We call them the Narcs. Maybe you're familiar, it's called the Narcs, okay? Which means they hide in any loophole, any backyard, any side street, whatever they can find, they're gonna hide and they're gonna come and get you. So they pulled this over at this time. And I'm like, darn, I knew something was wrong. And at this time, I didn't actually know what was in the vehicle. And the officer pulled us out. He asked for license and registration, but he didn't even give a second for us to give him that information. They strictly pulled us out. So about 10 seconds went by in my head, just thinking like, man, my mom's killed us. I was with my brother. I said, well, we got to what? You know, and me, I've been a mama's boy, and my mother raised me. And no matter how old I get, I always show respect to my mother to know no matter how big I get, she can knock me to the ground. So when he pulled us out the vehicle, he said, man, y'all in trouble. Somebody's going to prison. At this time, I had offers on the table, getting letters from like Michigan State and Central Michigan. It was something that I always wanted as a kid. Man. So October 1st, 2007, it was an end to the beginning. And as we know, sometimes the end of a thing is better than the beginning. And I can remember sitting in the cell and I asked God, I said, you just give me one chance, I promise you I can change. Because this was my 4th time being incarcerated. I couldn't understand how to behave. I couldn't understand how to take action to my behavior. I just understood that I was in a situation of what I seen from 15 brothers going in and out of prison. And one ultimately landed on America's Most Wanted was I wanted to be a drug dealer, but I didn't know how to go about going to the next level of playing college football. I just knew God, if you give me a second chance, I will change. So I was sitting on the phone with my mother. And again, this is passion because this is something I absolutely love. And I know what it's like to be a guy that's sitting in a cell that's completely lost. And my mother said, I said, hey, Mom, love you. I don't know when I'm coming home, but when I get home, I'm changed. And she said, maybe you'll be okay, dry your tears. And I said, okay. She said, but I want you to do me one favor. She said, when you go back to your cells, you drop to your knees. Because she raised me on principle. Come on, values of God. Come on. And she said, I want you to drop to your knees. And I dropped. And I heard a voice that said, and he said it in a way that I myself, being a teenager, could understand. He said, if you give me your life, I'll change yours. So fast forward, 2016, I was able to turn my life around, and I'm working in Ron Jackson State School. If anybody ever heard of TYC, I was able to turn everything around, got my record expunged, and an attorney and my judge said, you know what, Darius, we're gonna give you a second chance. Everything started to come together. And I'm walking a unit of 12 youthful offenders who are considered the most violent offenders in the state of Texas. And this around this time, what we call bedtime. So I'm going through all my checks, 15-minute checks, and they kept singing and rapping. They got Jeezy on this end, we got Tupac on this end. I said, fellas, come on now, quiet time, because you can't talk. I mean, most people don't know the regimen or the rehabilitation inside of TYC, but you really don't talk unless you're in treatment. There's no talking on the unit. You're quiet unless you're in treatment. So a guy kept singing, and we had Tupac, we had Jesus, we just had a mixture of everything going on. I said, fellas, be on QT, and if I say it again, tomorrow y'all gonna pay for it when you come out. So they said, no, sir, let him sing. And he kept singing. I couldn't understand the words, but he said, sir, if you please could, just let him sing. And I said, no, we on QT, which stands for quiet time. And he said, sir, I'm asking, can you please just let him sing? So I said, you know what, if everybody can be quiet, because it seemed like this is the only way I can get everybody to be quiet, I'll let you sing for 3 minutes, take off, clock is ticking. So we started to sing, Sam Cooke, the change is gonna come. And I began to do my rounds on the cell, and I stopped, and I seen a young man that was cutting his wrist. And I'm reminded of a situation when I was in my situation, and in the back of my head, and my mother used to tell me, never make, in a temporary situation, never make a permanent decision. So I was able to give that message back to him. I said, hey man, come to the door. I said, what are you doing? He said, I just want to go home. And I couldn't understand it at the time, and that conversation still riddles in the back of my head. I wondered, was he saying going home to his community that filled him with trauma, or was he saying he just wanted to go home, as he want to quit and go home and be with the Lord? So I asked him again. I said, man, are you okay? He said, sir, I just want to go home. I said, well, let me tell you something. I don't know when you're going to go home. I know it's going to be a year. I don't know if they're going to shoot you to prison, but you're going to get a second chance in life. But do me just one favor. Never put on your body a permanent scar in a temporary situation. And I can recall myself as a kid. I was like, that's why I gave you a second chance. That is why. So it's my belief as I stand in front of you all, again, I'm so passionate. And I see my daughter, this is like her first time ever seeing me speak. I'm normally not this proud, but I just love seeing her little face, and you know, she's a reflection of me. So my voice is just rattling because I'm nervous, because I have to present in front of her as a model, as a father, as a leader. So it's my belief to say that all children deserve a chance to make a mistake and learn from it, rather than costing them their livelihood. Globally, there's about 200,000 youth every year under the age of 18 that are sent into adult correctional facilities. And here in Dallas, there's about 7,000 every year that will enter the juvenile justice system. So I ask you, as you see a young child make a mistake, it is my belief to come to you today to say every child deserves a chance to make a mistake and learn from it without it costing them their livelihood. Thank you, that's my time.
Wow. That was awesome, and that's another reason why we do this, because we don't know who is sitting in prison or in jail. We don't know what they're gonna do when they come home. How do we want them to come home? I always like to tell the legislators when I talk to them, we don't all get life sentences. We come home and we work at your coffee shop. We come home and we're your neighbor. We marry your son, your husband, whatever, not your husband. But anyway, so we come back into the community, and how do you want us to come back, you know? And this, everybody who's spoken today is just proof that there's so much good that can be done with the people who are incarcerated. And so next, I think we have Leticia from Big Country Reentry Coalition, and they do a lot of work that she will tell you about.
All right, y'all. Everybody who knows me knows I'm an emotional being, so bear with me because I'm back there tearing up over all of the impactful, honest, and open and transparency that the brother before me shared. So thank you for that. My name is Leticia Hill, and I am the Reentry Coalition Coordinator for Big Country Reentry Coalition. They're based in Abilene, Texas. They serve the 19 counties that directly surround that area. I put my glasses on and read the mission because I don't know it by heart and I don't want to get it wrong. So the mission is the Big Country Reentry Coalition exists to facilitate and support the successful return of formerly incarcerated individuals to the community, plain and simple. They do so by focusing in on 6 key areas that have been identified as the most challenging for those returning home to overcome. The first one being employment, mental health issues that need to be addressed, mentorship if necessary, education, housing, and treatment. So that's what the Big Country Reentry Coalition does. I said I'm Leticia. I am formerly incarcerated. When Brother Shivas rattled out his inmate number, I kind of had a nervous reaction because mine popped right into my head. And Representative Sherman, before he left, he said, you know, we all need to be engaged in this stuff. We all need to be concerned because it could be you. And that was my situation. It could be me. I was indicted at 52. And though I didn't have a speeding ticket on my record for anything further, the system decided that I was a danger to my community. And in spite of my 25-year professional career and all of the accolades that I showed up with in court and all of the folks who had traveled to support me, the system said, nope, we don't believe you, and we're going to send you to prison. I wasn't ready. And not only was I not ready, I hadn't done anything. So I wasn't prepared. So it really shook me to my core. And I'm a fighter in my spirit. Most of us in this industry, I'm going to call it, we are fighters in our spirits because we are grounded in our faith. And we know that this is temporary. And we know that we are being prepared for a purpose.
And someone was speaking about, reentry doesn't start the day you get home or the weeks or months coming home. It starts when you enter. I had the fortune of being a self-surrender. I got to pick the day that I was going to go to prison, which meant that I had time to prepare. And I went in knowing when I got out that I was going to find this community because I was raised to be a fighter for the underdog. I'm not going to bore you with all the details of my story, but I've got one. And it has strengthened me. It has positioned me, and I am committed to be the voice of those who are sitting on the other side of that wall, talking about not being part of the real world, knowing that no one gives a rat's behind, and feeling not hopeless, helpless. I always had hope. I never lost hope, even when they threw me in the shoe for 58 days with some really bad people. I knew I kept my hope, but I was helpless. No one was listening. No one cared. I didn't know if anybody was out here fighting for me. I didn't know if anybody knew the inhumane practices that are going on, even at the place that they called the camp, right? So I went in knowing when I got out that my focus was going to be on helping women and girls, is that me? I have a particular connection to BIPOC women and girls, Black, Indigenous, people of color. I reside currently in Garland, Texas, and in spite of my 25-year career, I couldn't get a job, period. I struggled, and that's when I met Maggie, and I was at the brokenest place, and I was trying to hold on, but I was broken, but I'm better now. And I am committed and dedicated to sharing my story and making people aware of the need. We're coming home, let's just say that. 95% of inmates that went to prison will come home. What are we going to do when they get here? I had support. I had a network. I couldn't imagine trying it any other way. So that is what brought me to Big Country, because they are doing a great job of that. I mean, really just heads and shoulders above a lot. So I would encourage you all, if you're interested, we welcome you. We have monthly coalition meetings. But we welcome you to join us. You can email us at bigcountryreentrycoalition@gmail.com, and we can send you the link so that you can join us by Zoom. No effort is too great or too small, and I thank you for your time. Can you repeat that? It's Big Country Reentry Coalition@gmail.com. Here's the hand. Long time, everybody. And do you have information back on your? Yes, I have lots of information. Come by and say hi. Another organization, the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. And Fight Talk to Prison. So we have these, if y'all have questions for them, they're here. And am I missing? We couldn't go off. And next we have Miss Jennifer June, who is one of our founding members, our steering committee members, and she does a lot of the work with us in bringing these together. So congratulations.
So I want to tell you something that I say to a lot of people, and that is narrative narrative lies at the heart of advocacy. Okay, and I think that's a thing that we've already seen today. And so let's take it back a little bit and do a little storytelling. So, and this will really explain why I do the work that I do. So if you go back several years ago, I'm sitting at the back table at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville. I've been to all the female units, and they are as horrendous and as horrible as many of you have spoken about today. But Mountain View, the conditions were a little bit better. We had air conditioning, so I was very grateful. It was one of my prayers, that many prayers that women say when they get off of the chain bus at reception or plane is, "Dear Lord, please send me to Mountain View. Please don't send me to Holly." And was fortunate enough that he saw fit that this second incarceration, I was placed at the Mountain View unit. And I worked in the library. I wrote for the prison paper. I did all the things that I knew that I needed to do, because that second time, you guys, the first incarceration, I was a child. I grew up in the system. And that second time, when I woke up on that jail floor, I said, "Lord, you've got to help me, because I don't want this to continue to be my life." And so, as earlier mentioned, reentry starts the moment you get there. So when I got there, I did everything that I was supposed to do something productive. And we were sitting at the back table, Alexa Garza in the back. She also did 20 flat years. We were sitting back there and we were talking, and I said, one day we're going to get out of here, and you're going to work for Tifa, and I'm going to go to Austin, and we're going to change the system. And here we are, these years later, that even though that felt like a pipe dream, here we are today. And so I'm very passionate when it comes to any reform in the system, but especially for women. So there are about 120,000 people incarcerated in our state prisons. 8,000 of those are women. So as you can imagine, our needs get completely run over by the system, completely ignored, or they throw us some scraps, some bones. Here's just some programming so that we can show we did something. And it's interesting that the 86th legislative session saw some really impactful women's dignity bills. We were so excited. That's when I first saw Maggie. I just got out of prison, and I saw Maggie up at the Capitol testifying, and they were all in front of the Capitol. I was like, this is awesome. Then you fast forward to the 87th legislative session. And TDCJ puts out their mandatory reports about women's programming, because that's what the laws that got passed said, that they had to show that they were increasing and promoting women's programming. So I went through that report, and everything in that report was stuff that was already there, and it looks good on paper, which TDCJ is notorious for smoke and mirrors, right? We know what smoke and mirrors are, right? This is a way to create a distraction from the embarrassing, horrible thing that we're doing over here. And I was telling Alexa earlier, I said, I looked through that report. It mentioned wall talk, it mentioned woman to woman, all these peer education classes. That was the first part of the report, and they're fantastic programs. However, those curriculums haven't been updated in 20 years. So it's smoke and mirrors when it comes to women's programming, even after those dignity bills passed. And who is holding TDCJ accountable? And so I talked to Maggie and some other people, and we were like, I feel like there needs to be a group just for us, just for system impacted women. I am tired of people speaking for us. And a lot of times you get into groups as a woman who's been through the system, and you guys, I know that you suffer a whole array of things in TDCJ, but our experience is different, and it's hard to articulate that to people. I wrote an article in the Texas Observer called Invisible Scars, because that's what TDCJ does to women. Men go in and they have a physical
experience. There's a lot of gangs and fighting, and I'm not saying that that stuff doesn't happen in the women's facility, but the abuse and the violence done to us is very much psychological to our spirit. And it's hard to articulate that to people. The abuse from the guards, I read in the article I talked about during visitation, how the guard was just shaming us as we got strip searched. Look at your body. Oh God, y'all stink. Y'all are filthy. Y'all are nasty. I can't believe your mother brought all 5 of your kids. How dare you do this to your mother? And all we could do was just say, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because she held the keys to us seeing our families and our kids. And that's the type of psychological terror that the system does to women. And so I'm deeply passionate about it, and that's why I started Lioness, which is the Justice Impacted Women's Alliance. I've left some cards over there if you'd like to check out our website. And the hard part of it is that women in the system, we would watch the men protest and do hunger strikes and do grievances, and they were just so bold, but we lived in terror, we lived in fear. Because if we did anything, because statistically, women are disciplined harsher in the system than men. A man can have a contraband case for a shank and get very, very minor punishment. A woman has 7 tampons instead of 6, and she gets a major case, can't use phone, can't go to visitation. Those are the differences that me and my friends and Alexa were determined while we were in the system, that I'm going to make sure everybody knows what they're doing to us as women. So that's why we started our group, because we just got tired of people speaking for us. And it takes women, you know, we used to say, well, why don't we stick together? It's because of that fear. We were so terrified of the petty ways they terrorized us that we didn't know how to organize ourselves. And so we're moving in that direction because the other women in our networks see Maggie, they've seen me and Lori, and they're like, well, we want to do something. Well, what can I do? And it's as simple as, like we talked about, making a phone call, writing an email, doing something. And it's so empowering to the women that I know on the outside and on the inside. I was so impressed with my girls in Gatesville, because when COVID happened, they were like, well, tell a reporter to talk to me. I want to tell them what they're doing to us in here. And that takes, I just can't articulate to you how much courage that takes for the women on the inside, because they live with this threat, this looming threat of psychological torture. So this kind of leads me into what I really want to talk about today, which is free Melissa Lucio. Even to some other groups asking us not to, we're like, no, we can't. I'm not going to sit still and be quiet when one of my sisters is about to be murdered by the state of Texas. And I don't care, all those girls on death row, innocent or guilty, I'll never be quiet, never stop fighting for them.
Less than 30 days.
That's right, less than 30
April
days.
27th.
April 27th. And so Melissa Lucio's case, if you haven't heard about it, I hope that we've done a good job to kind of spread the word, but you'll see the flyers here, and it's got the information to the website and a little bit about her case. She is a Mexican-American woman who's been falsely accused of murdering her small little child.
Yeah.
And if you watch the film, which is the state of Texas versus Melissa, it can be hard to watch. But when you get through the end of the film, you're like, I need to do something. And pay special attention to even her own attorney, the way he speaks about this woman. Every system in the state of Texas failed the Lucio family. And because she was a brown woman living in poverty, her life didn't matter to them. But she matters to us. I know Melissa. Alexa knows Melissa. We did time with her. Even though she was there with us, she wasn't one of us, but she'll always be our sister. And so I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, please. There's some action items on that flyer. Right now, we're waiting for the board of parole and pardons to make their recommendation to the governor. They have to do that by law before he can intervene. And we're hopeful. There was a really great press conference, if y'all saw that, bipartisan support that this woman is on death row falsely accused. And we feel like she was forced into it wasn't even a confession. And you can watch that interrogation, which is horrifying. But perhaps probably as a mother to protect some of her other daughters. So please help us stop this execution. She would appreciate it, we would, and please just share that information as far and wide as you can. We've got less than 30 days to save Melissa Lucio. So I'm so grateful that all of you've come out. I'm so encouraged by the community support, and let's get these people out of office that are hurting our community.
So tonight at 7:30, we have a call with the Lucio family.
Yep.
They go visit her and then come out and tell us how she is in spirit. And her son posted a letter that she wrote to the people who are working for her freedom right now. And she was encouraging. Woman is going to be murdered in front of her children who are still living. And she's encouraging us to stay strong. So this is just very important. Whether you believe whatever you believe, we should not kill this woman, any woman. And don't say, don't kill, and then we kill you. How many people?
Yes.
How many people have been exonerated after we've already killed them? How many people? Anthony Reverend sat on death row, wasted 17 years of his life, and they knew he didn't do it. So, and this.
34 years, he was just released as wrongfully incarcerated, but he needs to still be released from the
Right.
So he's out, but he's still not free.
The governor is a Roman Catholic, if you don't know that.
Didn't know that. Didn't know that.
And he
That's
needs
unreal.
to do something.
Right.
Needs to do something. And I just learned,
Hypocrite, liar, cheater,
All that.
mentiroso, arrastrado,
Keep going.
vago.
yeah. Thank you. I just learned that at the press conference the other day. And even Representative Jeff Leach, who is a Republican, pleaded to his conservative members, this woman should not be there. And if we really are pro-life in Texas, if we care about a heartbeat, Melissa Lucio has a heartbeat.
Yes.
Melissa Lucio's son, who is out there fighting for her, has a heartbeat. And he will be on the front row watching the state of Texas murder her if this happens. So we gotta stop this. We're gonna let, Savannah is gonna come up here and speak a little bit, and then I'll let y'all have time to mingle, and I'm just overwhelmed by today, so.
Great job, Maggie.
Thank you.
Good job, Maggie.
Quickly, if you haven't signed in, please do so. I have a couple of gift cards and some Easter baskets that I'd like to give away. So if you haven't put your name on the list, please add your name to the list so I can do my little wheel spin here. But I just wanted to come up here. Jennifer, come up here real quick because you got the shirt on. And so my name is Savannah. In addition to Families Be Pray for Justice, I also work to end prison slavery in the state of Texas and across the nation with my organization and an organization called the Abolish Slavery National Network. So Jennifer is my poster child today. And I read her shirt and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even mention my own campaign. So roses are red, Doritos are savory. The U.S. prison system is legalized slavery. You guys, last session, it was a horrible session for criminal justice bills. So you can imagine what it was like for me to go into an office of an elected official and say, prison labor is slavery. I got a lot of, they stopped answering my calls. My bill went nowhere. Nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to open the door. But I'm filing it again in the
Hey, let's get
88th
it.
legislative session because prison labor is slavery. And Texas is one of 5 states in which people are not incentivized for their work. The 13th Amendment did not end slavery. And when I saw the bill, I said, okay, how are we gonna end slavery? I'm gonna strike it out. When you look at a bill, line through whatever you don't want. So I sit on my computer, I converted it to Word, and I struck it out. And I asked somebody to file it, and they did. And it's just as simple as that, sometimes, right? But that's actually how the bill got filed. Myself and my partner, David Johnson, you know, we committed to, because I have a loved one, I founded my organization because I have a brother who's serving life in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for assault. He was sentenced under the 3 strikes rule, and he got a life sentence. So this is my life's work. I'm a nurse, but this is my life's work because I believe that his sentence was excessive. And while we're talking about the death penalty, life and virtual life sentences are
Also bad.
they are death. So TCJ is a killing machine, but I'm fighting for my brother so he gets out, even if I have to wheel him out of there. He's coming home.
Preach Savannah, I see you.
All right. Anybody else want to sign in before I? Hey, oh yeah, come on. Anybody else want to sign in after he speaks real quick? Then I'll go ahead and do the drawing.
Hello, everyone. All right, this is kind of random, but not really. So I get this text message on my phone from somebody I don't really talk to who got a message from someone they don't really talk to about this event today. So I said, okay, God, lead the way. Because what does the Bible say? God orders our steps. So I said, all right, God, I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to go to this. So I showed up here today on a Saturday, right? Beautiful day outside. You could have been anywhere, but you came to support this cause, and that deserves an applause. So give it up for yourself, bro. Let's do that. Let's do that. Now, I really just came here to get an idea of the resources, but as I had heard everyone speak, I was motivated by what they said, and all these different thoughts came to my head, and I just said, okay, Holy Spirit, just lead me to say whatever it is you want me to say. So I appreciate you giving me like a couple of minutes just to say this, because I think it's important to be said, especially based on the reason why we're here, which is justice. All right, now it was said that, you know, my fellow speaker back there, he said that a child makes a mistake. But let's take it a step further. Suppose they make a mistake based on a disability. Based on a disability. See, I had attention deficit disorder. My mom used to abuse painkillers and prescription drugs when she was pregnant with me, and I seemed pretty normal. But I knew growing up as a kid, I had little kind of things, but I was really smart, because if you know about ADD, most people with ADD are very smart and they're very creative, and they do kind of outgoing and outspoken and do wild things like wear fancy jackets, but they're very messy or disorganized. They lose things. Like I had to keep something on my wallet because I go to the store and I get all excited and forget I left my wallet at the counter. I lost my glasses so many times I gotta have something attached to it. It's safe to say I get easily distracted. And because of this disability, guess what? When I was a child with disability, guess what happened? I grew up and I became an adult, and guess what? Still a disability. It didn't go anywhere because my brain didn't change. And so because of this imbalance, I'm very good at a lot of things, but I'm not so good at other things like paying attention and being aware. So as a result of that, I got arrested over my disability, not because I was behaving criminally. Let me say that again. I got arrested over my disability, not because I was behaving criminally. Quick story. I've done a lot of big things, and you heard it. You don't think it can happen to you. Sister Letitia talked about how she was so emotional and she got thrown in jail, never been in trouble in her life. I'm almost 50 years old. Never been in trouble in my life. Grew up in Oak Cliff, but I had grandparents that told me, hey, this ain't the way to go. Dabble with a little dope selling. I almost got caught by the police. They stopped me and said, young man, we catch you out here in the streets again, we taking you to jail. And what does the Bible say? Warning comes before what? Destruction. Yeah, warning comes before. So when they told me that about 15 and 16, I said, forget all that. So I got me a little job, ended up going to college at USC, came back, graduated from Texas A&M, got a business degree, no more trouble for me. Thought I was good, tried to be a law-abiding citizen, but once again, I got arrested over my disability, not because I was behaving criminally. So quick story, I was giving somebody a ride. Like I said, I've done big things. You don't expect this. I used to work for 97.9 The Beat with Ricky Smiley, Head Crack. You know, I've interviewed superstars like Lil Wayne, like Will Smith. You know, I've done a lot. You can check out my YouTube. So when you see somebody in the room, you don't know what they've done or who they are, but I don't go around talking about, hey, I've interviewed this star. I've just done some things. I even went to school with Mayor Eric Johnson. You know, we played football on the same team, got the yearbook, all that. He knows me. But because of my case, a lot of people kind of have backed up. So here's my case. I'm currently like pending right now, not convicted, but I was arrested, bogusly arrested. So I gave these young ladies a ride, went to a party my buddy had, you know, the pandemic, everybody's locked up, you can't go out. He's like, I know you're a social dude, this pandemic, all the restaurants, the clubs and stuff, locked up, man, I'm having to get together in my house. Cool, went to his house, met some young ladies, come to find out, because I'm not paying attention, one of them was underage and she was a runaway and she had been escorted. I didn't know, like I just met her, like, hey, everybody's at the party, having fun, it's all cool, you had a grown-up party doing grown-up things. I didn't really think like you'd like to ask, it just was like you was here, and once again, if I'm losing stuff like my wallet and not paying attention to that, you think I really was like paying attention, like you said, this is what y'all had going on? I just was kind of nice and gullible. Gave them a ride, police tracked the girl's phone, and because they said, oh, we heard this girl was an escort, she's being pimped, and they threw me in jail and accused me of promotion of pimping. They threw me in jail for pimping, then I got out, bonded out, spent $7,000 to get out of jail. Then they threw me back in jail, came back. I thought once you bonded out, because I've never been in trouble, I don't know how this works. They came back, threw me in jail, and said, hey, we're gonna also add human trafficking. Human trafficking, I just gave a girl like a ride 45 minutes away, the next city over or something, but she was Caucasian. Maybe that played a role, maybe it didn't. I'm not here to judge on race, but there was also an African-American young lady in the picture that they never even mentioned. It was like, oh, this young lady that's Caucasian, we feel like you were human trafficking her because I picked her up and gave her a ride. They had no evidence. The girl even said I wasn't pimping him, but they said, well, he was with you. We don't really know what his affiliation was with you, so we just gonna keep him in jail and let y'all figure it all out when he go to trial. I was heartbroken. I wasn't prepared for this. I didn't know who to call. I didn't have a list. You know, nowadays with cell phones, I didn't remember people's numbers. I didn't have none of it. I was totally thrown off guard, and it hit me hard. And I said, oh my God, I just wasn't aware. I'm not a criminal. I just gave somebody a ride. And because of this, now I'm thrown in jail because of my disability. And so now I'm trying to fight this case. And I'm like, there's gotta be some resources and things that can help people like mine. So when I went to jail, so they said, well, you should have known, you didn't know, blah, blah, this and that. And when I went to jail, I saw so many inmates taking medications for mental health issues. And I said, society is doing people with disabilities a disservice. Instead of giving them the proper help they need and help them succeed, you just throw them in jail. And then what? You contribute and add to the prison system or the business of slavery that was just mentioned earlier, because now you're getting more free labor over in this Texas prison system. There's no way this is right. But as mentioned earlier, if we don't go out and vote and we don't give people in office who's going to actually address the issue of disability and the roles it plays in crimes, then more people are going to be thrown in jail. Because right now it's like either you're totally insane and crazy or like you're totally normal. But suppose you're in the middle ground. There's no solution that's being found. It's like, you got a disability, we don't care, you're not crazy, right? You can stand trial, all right, that's what it is, and that's not right. So I appreciate you for letting me share this, because we need to address the role of disabilities play in these situations. So thank you very much, thank you for the work you do.
Coalition, Texas, what is it?
Coalition of Texas for Disability.
Yes, she's the criminal justice for Coalition of Texas for Disability. So y'all should connect and talk about justice and criminal justice.
Yeah.
Okay, so Savannah's gonna do the rest of it.
Okay, but before I do, please, let's remember to use humanizing language when we're referring to system and justice involved folks. So let's not say inmate, offender, felon, and just refer to them as people who are justice involved. All right, so I have my wheel here, and you can call me Vanna for the next 2 minutes. All right, I'm raffling 2 Easter baskets and 2 gift cards. Gas is expensive, so $50 will help somebody in the room today. All right, so let's see. I need to put my own name on there. Come on. Okay, this is number 17. Who is it?
There is nobody on set.
Okay, so let's do it again. I was 17 at one time. Okay, 20. Joe Swanson. All right.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Thank you.
All right.
No, no.
Then again for the gift card, and then we'll do the basket. Let's see. And 11.
Mickey Brooks.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okay. And there's 2 baskets. Whoever wins can just go pick one. 16? 16.
There's nobody else.
Oh, okay. Then again, I think I've got a new job. Nursing looking a little rough these days. 22.
Mary Miller.
All right, yay. Okay, last one. 12.
Janice Miller.
All right, okay. All right. Oh, we do? Okay, well, let's keep rolling. All right, somebody's got a lot of lucky people today. So 3 more? Ma'am. Okay, well, let's go. Maybe you should hit it. Okay. Woo.
I did it for you one time.
14.
Mary Palmer.
All right, next one is 2.
Yeah.
You know who 2 is. She called us at 2. I heard her back there. All right, you got one more? All right, last one. 29.
Thank you all so much for being here. We're gonna go ahead and leave you time to collect information, talk to each other, and connect. And I appreciate you all. Thank you. Bye.
I have a quick question. I wanted to ask you. So, you up to